This is the Realty Classroom Podcast, episode number 67. The clearest message wins. Are you a real estate agent with an entrepreneurial spirit who wants to turn your job into a business without sacrificing your lifestyle, but you can't seem to find the right plan to help you get there? Well, then, hey, you're definitely in the right place. I'm Danny Griffin, the founder of the Realty Classroom and the host of this podcast. And to help you take immediate action to build a better real estate agent business or get started the right way, I've created a free jumpstart course for you over at freeagentgift.com. It's on demand. It's digital. You can get in there and keep yourself on the planned road. Stop trying to do this on muscle. It just doesn't work. All right, enough of that. Let's get started in this episode. The clearest message wins. Very simple concept, and I want to give full credit to a body of work that I'm studying by Donald Miller called StoryBrand. It's something that I've always vibed with, but he's the first one out there that I think put it in an order. And you know, I'm a big fan of systems and formulas, so I'm studying that, and he had some poignant moments there that I wanted to share with you and relate it to our real estate agent business. But the first one is, people don't buy the best product or service. Let that sink in. It's insane. But, I've been training a lot in our mastermind group and the Griffin Realty Group. We've been training our agents a lot about this whole concept of the fact that it's not necessarily a resume that they buy. You could have somebody who's really good at real estate agency and somebody goes with somebody else and you kind of scratch your head and say, how does that even happen? I mean, there are the best people at something. They have the most knowledge at something. And you might be one of those people thinking, yes, I get what he's saying. My gosh, I go bananas every time I lose to somebody who just got their license. They don't know anything. They haven't sold that much. And again, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm simply saying, I know that a lot of you think like that. But what people, the consumers, know is that they're the hero of the story, not us. So I think that's an important thing to recognize, that if you make yourself the hero of the story, then maybe your message isn't so clear as to how you're going to help the hero. So let that sink in for a second, because you might have this long resume and this ability, and you've done all this training and coaching and everything that you can't wait to go out and share it. But all of a sudden something doesn't happen. They go with somebody else after meeting with you. Or they chose somebody else and they're your best friend and you can't understand it. Even family cheats on you. And there's a reason for that. So let's get into the second point here. People will buy the product or service that they can understand the fastest. See, let's think about a watch. If you walked into a store and there was this beautiful, sophisticated watch, and there it was, and it's been made in the Swiss Alps, and it has all of these amazing mechanisms, and it never loses time, and on and on and on the drone goes, and somebody walks in and says, yeah, here's an Apple Watch. You just turn it on and shows you the time. You hit this button and it can, get you online too. See a lot of people running around with that Apple Watch. Now, I get it. Price is an issue too, right? But the point is, the minute I have to burn a lot of calories as the hero of the story, I get it. And I'm like, wow, yeah, that was great. It just wasn't for me, goes the statement on a regular basis, right? Ever hear that? Yeah, he was great. It just wasn't a good match for me. It wasn't a good fit for me. And that's because as people try to understand what you're saying, it's so easy for them to burn a lot of calories and get lost. I know this as a coach, and that's what I try to do on these podcasts is I try to keep it organized and chunk up the concepts into bullet points. Then I reiterate them. Then I restate them. Still, I know people get confused. But the point is, I'm trying to keep it as clear as possible and simple by being formulaic and organized, so that people can understand what I'm saying quickly. So that on a 15 to 20 minute podcast, you walk away with some sort of an actionable step, or at least something that's rooted so that when the environment provides itself the opportunity to practice this stuff, you can. Because if you drone on and on, look, I love to talk about this business. I have thousands of hours. But if I don't sit here and say, point number one, people don't buy the best product or service. Point number two, they buy the ones they can understand the fastest. You get it, right? It's very clear. And that leads to the third point here, which is really what a lot of us start to fall into. And it's this avoidance of the curse of knowledge. Now, what does that mean? Let's take a brand new realtor, for example. They go take the pre-licensing course, they take the test, they get the license, and in some form or fashion, training begins. And their enthusiasm, the world is so bright and so exciting, and we can't wait to get out there and tell everybody what we know and that we're a realtor. And we come hot out of the box, and there we are, and we start yakking at a bunch of people, and nobody does business, and we start saying stupid things like, oh, I'm just not good at this, or the market stinks, or I'm at the wrong company. No, this has a lot more to do with understanding this journey that the hero is on when they're trying to buy or sell property. We keep trying to make this so complicated, and worse, we keep trying to make it about us. So let's go back to this concept of clearest message wins. Clearest message about whom and to whom? Think about that for a second. I mean, what message are we trying to deliver to whom? So it's very simple in our business. You have the buyer and you have the seller. Those are two different orientations. So if we have a department store, we have two departments, buyers and sellers. Of course, some will intermingle. One leads to the next. I get it. But just for sake of argument about messaging and clarifying it, if the buyer, let's start there, is the hero of the story, is it really necessary for you to drone on about everything that you just learned in class or everything somebody just taught you? Is it really necessary? No, is the answer. Because we go through all of our education, hopefully, to try to understand how we bring an agent plan forward. Right? That's my job with you, is to help you build a planned and intentional approach for these buyers and sellers. But you have this independent business opportunity that needs a clear plan to follow. So why not them? If you're my hero, they're yours. It's the same concept here, right? So if you avoid the curse of knowledge, meaning if you learn from me here for 15 or 20 minutes, you don't need to take all of this to them. This is for you, my hero. I'm just saying, sit there in your car before walking into that listing, before doing that open house, and think, what knowledge, and I would go this way, sort of think like Twitter. Twitter limits you to a number of characters so that you have to be clear and simple with your message. It's one of the greatest edited ways to communicate, and it forces us all to say less, and it ends up being a lot more. Look at how powerful the platform has become, especially for celebrities, political figures. It's amazing because it makes you clarify. And oftentimes that can be downright incendiary, right? And it can really start this incredible viral conversation. So there's no need to drone on about everything that you know because you can't in a forum like that. So I would take that over to what we do. And let's go back to this buy side. Imagine that you have set yourself up to go run an open house and somebody comes through the door and you're enthusiastic and you want to tell them all about why you. So you might be able to clearly articulate why you, but it's not even appropriate yet because all you are in this story is the guide. So the first messaging that you have to make sure is clear is that you even understand the story you're about to enter, that somebody else is the hero of the story, and that you are subservient to that in the role of the guide with guidance. See, that helps you edit Twitter style the knowledge to say, that's an interesting but specific perspective. If I look at the buyer coming through the front door in an open house, what knowledge do I need to impart to them? What do I need to give them as the hero of the story? Here comes the hero through the door at the open house. What do they want? They want to visit the open house, and they don't want to be bugged by some story that's not relevant to them. They want to be welcomed in. Now, clearly, I'm coaching you to say, okay, but you also have a formula there ready to go. So you're understanding that the first and most important thing is to get everybody to sign in. Oh, but I can't. They come. Yes, you can. It is your place to communicate clearly that the seller has requested that you have everybody sign in. Name, email address, phone number, and the name of their realtor if they have one. Now all that information is there. Now that you've controlled the introduction because it is your platform, that's fine. I mean, good guidance, lead them by the nose, tell them how this is going to happen as they come into the house to respect the forum. But the next thing, it is all about the clarity of the message to them. Look, once you're done signing in, right next to that sheet is the feature sheet with all the details of this property. That's what you want, right? And I'll guide you and I'll answer your questions about the property the best that I can. And if I can't answer the questions, I'll be a great resource. I'll find out some more. And that's your first beat as a great guide, and just to relax into that. You're not going to put somebody in a headlock in that moment in time if you don't give a clear message that they're welcome here, that they're welcome to ask questions, that they're welcome to peruse the place, right? Pretty simple, clear message. Now, what that does for you, my hero, is that allows you to be in a position where you can engage in further conversation. Hey, you looking for yourself? Basic, clean. Yes, we are. Really? How long have you been looking? Couple of months. Great. When were you hoping to buy? Before the season? After the season? So now what's happening is you're getting knowledge about them because you're avoiding your own curse of knowledge, meaning you don't need to tell them everything about the process that you know and that you're aware of and everything about the neighborhood. What about this house? And on and on and on and on and on you go. Because the spotlight is not on you. It's on them. So that third point there, to avoid the curse of knowledge, is relatively easy if you just think about them. Now, if this is guidance that is going to allow, there's going to be a continuance of it, even in this open house, you should be prepared, Mr. and Mrs. Guide out there. What else do you have beyond this house when, because the majority of the time they say, oh, this doesn't work, or the garage, oh, well, I took the liberty to bring with me a list of other properties that are for sale with addresses and descriptions in this neighborhood. But more importantly, I included some solds. I thought that would give you some insight as to what the money's buying. What? Unbelievable. Really? It's all packaged up for me, the hero of the story, to take it? Oh, but they have their apps and they can do it by themselves. All this nonsense that everybody says to themselves. What is wrong with you leaning in further? Well, they'll cheat on me. They'll go down there and they'll call the listing agent. So what? So what? Do you really think that if somebody is unencumbered, they don't have a relationship with a real estate agent, and you start to hand them this information, you don't think they're going to want to lean in with you? And what's your alternative, by the way? To default to the other way of doing business, to insert yourself as the hero and start droning on about how great you are and how much better you are than the Zillow app or this thing or that thing? Just falls flat. Doesn't work. And it confuses people. It's not a clear message, right? So let's go back to the next point here to understand what that human is doing in that moment from a brain standpoint. You see, they're trying to do what on Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Survive the real estate process. Right? Housing is one of those basic things that people really need. And to go through the process of buying or selling, even if it's a second home or it's a place they want to be or they've always dreamed of being, doesn't matter. You have to burn a lot of calories to survive that process. So if you insert yourself as the hero, start talking downhill at them, throwing up all this knowledge all over them, guess what happens? Their brain shuts down on you. Think about that. Their brain shuts down on you because your methodology for engaging them is causing them to burn more calories. And the brain says, uh-oh, we're not going to survive this by listening to this guy or gal. Shut down. And they can't hear you anymore. Even though they're patronizing you and they like you and it was a great conversation, what the heck happened? They never called me back. They went dark on me is the big conversation, right? Well, you just overwhelmed them. You caused them to burn too many calories. You didn't chunk it up. You didn't simplify it. You weren't encouraging. You're going downhill at them. I know you were doing it enthusiastically. I know you wanted to help them. But from a brain standpoint, they just want to survive. And they would love somebody to help guide them through survival with a plan, he said, right? So again, let me just reiterate that point before I move on to the plan. The key is that buyers and sellers are human beings whose brains are saying, survive each one of these circumstances you get involved in. It's a raw human way that we work. And if I burn too many calories to survive, I shut down and I look for alternatives on how to eat, on how to survive. That's what I do. So it's no different when it comes to these decisions like real estate. They will shut down or they will feel empowered. It's up to you and how you approach it. So the next spot here is to simplify your survival plan for the buyers and sellers. I coach a lot of top producers who have developed, for example, listing presentations that can last 90 minutes. 90 minutes. And don't get me wrong, those people oftentimes walk out the door with the listing and they say, well, it's that presentation. I don't know. I'm not so sure that we didn't just bludgeon those people into doing business with us and there was no other alternative. But somewhere along that process, I'll guarantee you they just gave up and said, oh my gosh, I can't listen to you anymore. Here, take the listing, right? I mean, I'm telling you, they might not articulate that. But if the brain is meant to not burn as many calories, at some point in that conversation, they were leaning towards you and you didn't even see it. And you kept going because you have this curse of knowledge. It's an intellectual insecurity, by the way, too. I used to do it all the time, by the way. Guilty, guilty, guilty. I used to just keep talking because I was not seeing myself as the hero. I was seeing myself, not as the guide. I was seeing myself as, just a competitor. So maybe by default, I was acting as the hero and I wasn't respecting that they were. I don't really know what was happening other than I was going on too long. I think I'm a clear speaker. I think I can make my point. And I always had some sort of an organized formula, but I know I spent way too much time not allowing them to make a simple decision. And oftentimes I would hear, oh, he's very good. He's very aggressive, but he's too much for me. So here I am, one of the most knowledgeable people in the business because of the hours I do, and I was killing myself because I was just talking on too much about this knowledge. That's the curse of knowledge. So I started to recognize people don't want that. Think about TED Talks, right? How long is a TED Talk? Do you know? It's about 18 minutes, and then they kick you off the stage because they don't want you to go on too long and lose the audience. Whatever study they've done about going in a little bit deeper in a subject, it's about 18 minutes, and you get the hook. That's it. I try to watch this while I'm going here. 17:08 as I say this. I got to get out of Dodge. That's just how long the brain can communicate a little bit deeper before it goes on to something else. So let's leave the last point here before I run out of time and the buzzer goes off. Simplify your survival plan for buyers and sellers. Now, I've talked about this a lot on this podcast. I have 2 infographics that I think are the immutable laws of selling and buying, meaning we all follow the same ones, but I put them in order on an infographic. In fact, one of my mastermind members sent it to me the other day and put it in a list. Why? Because he wants to be the hero of his own story. He wants it the way that he wants it. He doesn't want to show them that it's a process, that it's interdependent. Now it looks like a checklist, and it's not. There is an organized way that people go through buying and selling processes. I'm not saying that they're not intermingled. I'm not saying that sometimes they don't get juxtaposed, but it's pretty simple. There's just a few steps to selling and a few to buying. And if you go beyond that and you can't give that dissertation on the hood of a car in 60 seconds with a 5th grade level infographic, your message is not clear enough. You need to start there and take the Twitter version of your buyer and seller plan and be able to articulate it. Sure, there are many opportunities where you want to deep dive and they'll ask more questions and you need to indulge the hero. No problem. But don't presume that that's your obligation. All right, let me go back and say, the clearest message wins is based on these bullet points. People do not buy the best product or service. Rather, the second point, they buy the ones they can understand the fastest. I know it sounds bizarre, but you have to remember to avoid the curse of your own knowledge and recognize that this is point number 4 based on raw, basic human survival technique of the brain. I want something simple that gets me what I have to survive. Now, you might help me thrive beyond that, but let's just check the box in survival. And the way that you do that is to be prepared with a simplified survival plan for buyers and sellers that simply shows them, here is the process for survival in 7 steps. Here's the process for buying in 6 steps. Very simple. And again, those are mine. Again, I'm not going to get down dirty on those right now, but suffice to say, you should be able to rattle them off in a Twitter-like 60 seconds or less. I know this elevator speech thing has proliferated itself around. I would say it's probably like that. How can you help me? Well, I have a plan. What do you mean you have a plan? Well, we just take you through these 7 steps. And with or without me, you'll know how the process works. Now, the reason you would take me, you still have to get to Mount Everest. You still need that plan. But if you take me, I've made a lot more distinctions than others simply by even putting this in order and showing you I'm unique. I have a plan. All right, so chunk it up here. To summarize the key point, if you do not avoid the curse of knowledge and end up overselling or over-explaining your message, you'll find the consumer will become overwhelmed and will choose your competitor who makes it the clearest that their survival plan is the best option. So remember, you can take immediate action and get a little bit more organized with a plan yourself. If you get over to our free video course, it's over at freeagentgift.com. Now, the same thing that does is it makes you think about the global things that must get done in our business. Simple. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so that you don't miss out on any insights each time we upload an episode. We also broadcast our live sales training calls on Facebook and YouTube every Friday at 1 o'clock ET. You can actually hear us talking to these heroes when we first meet them. No easy task. So remember to turn on those page and channel notifications and you won't miss the reminders. We'd also, of course, appreciate it if you would share our content with other entrepreneurial real estate agents just like you so that they can get some help that they need too. Hey, look, to me, you're all heroes, but I love it when one of my heroes shares with another one, okay? And thanks for listening. And remember, nobody's coming for you. So go get to work on your own business. See you in the next episode.